Fired by a clueless boss. I held the ace, the architect's gambit. For 9 years, I, Olivia Vance, was the bedrock of Apex's technical foundation. Then came Mark Harrison. He didn't just step in as a new CEO. He stormed the office like a conqueror, draped in an impeccably tailored Italian suit and a glittering Rolex that screamed arrogance. His confidence was as thick as his ignorance, completely blind to what Apex Innovations truly stood for. And in that moment, I revealed the ace card he never saw coming, a twist that would redefine my fate. Watch the full video now. Seattle, city of rain, coffee, and code. High above the glittering skyline, within the glass and steel heart of Apex Innovations, a storm was brewing. Not one of clouds and thunder, but of ambition, betrayal, and the quiet, devastating power of intellectual property. For 9 years, Olivia Vance had been the bedrock of Apex's technical foundation. She wasn't just an employee, she was the architect of its success, the silent engine driving its core product. But the winds of change were blowing, bringing with them a force that threatened to shatter everything. Mark Harrison. Sound of footsteps on polished floor, slightly too loud, echoing. Murmur of office fades slightly. Olivia remembered the first time she saw him. Mark Harrison. He strode into the main office not like a new CEO joining a team, but like a conqueror surveying his latest acquisition. The suit was Italian, impeccably tailored, a dark charcoal that screamed money. The watch on his wrist wasn't just a Rolex. It was a statement, catching the sterile office light with arrogant flashes. Confidence oozed from him, thick and suffocating, masking a breathtaking ignorance of what Apex Innovations actually did. Seattle, city of rain, coffee, and code. High above the glittering skyline, within the glass and steel heart of Apex Innovations, a storm was brewing. Not one of clouds and thunder, but of ambition, betrayal, and the quiet, devastating power of intellectual property. He announced, his voice smooth, overly friendly, and loud enough for all to hear. All right everyone, listen up. Call me Mark. Simple. Easy. I like things fast, efficient, and most importantly, profitable. Forget the old ways. We're here to disrupt, to innovate, to make Apex the name on everyone's lips. We're going to achieve amazing things. Starting now. Sound of a beat of stunned silence, followed by hesitant, scattered applause, thin and unenthusiastic. Olivia Vance watched from the doorway of her office, arms crossed, face unreadable. 9 years. 2 CEOs. 4 gut-wrenching reshuffles. A near bankruptcy averted only by the very system she built from the ashes. She knew the corporate dance, the hollow smiles, the performative enthusiasm. But Mark Harrison, he wasn't dancing. He was preparing to bulldoze. He just didn't realize he was aiming his wrecking ball at the building's load-bearing wall. The game had begun, and Olivia held the master key. The first week was pure chaos. Mark cancelled project reviews, replacing them with jargon-filled synergy summits and vision-casting sessions that produced nothing but buzzwords. He fired 3 respected middle managers by Thursday, 2 via curt, impersonal emails that landed like grenades in their inboxes. Then, with the breathtaking arrogance of the truly uninformed, he started demanding changes to Apex's flagship software. Her software. Olivia thought back, her voice calm but laced with steel in her mind. 6 years ago, this company was on life support. A bad acquisition nearly flatlined us. I worked 18-hour days for months, sketching on napkins, coding until my eyes burned, building the new back-end framework. Secure, scalable, elegant, and smart enough, thanks to old CEO Henderson's urging, to patent the core system architecture under my own name. Just in case, Olivia, he'd said, a little insurance policy. If you ever leave, we'll need you more than you need us. It was buried deep in her employment contract. Clause 17, Section B, Subsection 4. Drier than dust, overlooked by legions of HR representatives and executives who never bothered with the fine print. Especially executives like Mark Harrison, who clearly hadn't read anything beyond his own press clippings. Sometimes, the deadliest weapon isn't a secret plan. It's a documented fact everyone else ignored. By week 2, the microaggressions began. Mark started calling her tech lead instead of her actual title, Director of Systems Architecture, a deliberate diminishment. In meetings, his eyes would slide past her, landing on junior engineers when discussing her system. He'd cut her off mid-sentence, often turning to praise a half-formed idea she'd meticulously detailed in a report he obviously hadn't read. Classic tactics: belittle, discredit, dismiss, undermine. Breathe, Olivia, she told herself internally. Document. Observe. Let him build his own cage. She kept her composure, her voice even, her arguments logical. But in the evenings, she meticulously documented every slight, every dismissive email, every instance where Mark bypassed her authority or demonstrated his staggering lack of technical understanding. She saved emails, noted dates and times, recorded verbatim quotes in a password-protected file on her personal drive. Insurance. Then came Friday morning. 0 hour. Sound of door frame creaking slightly as someone leans on it. Mark Harrison appeared, leaning against her office doorframe like a low-budget soap opera villain. "Olivia," he began, his tone casual, almost bored. "Got a minute? Can we talk?" Olivia looked up slowly, gesturing coolly to the chair opposite her desk. "Of course, Mark. Have a seat." He ignored the chair, staying leaned against the frame, trying to loom. "Nah, I'll stand. Look, I'm gonna be blunt. Straight shooter, that's me," he said, trying to sound favorable. "Saves time. You've been here a long time, Olivia. Maybe too long. Things are changing rapidly. We need dynamism, fresh blood, people who can keep up with my pace." Olivia raised a single, questioning eyebrow. "Meaning?" Mark dropped the fake casualness, his voice hardening. "Meaning I'm letting you go. Effective immediately. Your position? Redundant. Unnecessary in the new structure. Ours got a standard severance package waiting for you downstairs. Papers are all drawn up. Tidy." It was so rehearsed, so smugly delivered. The sheer, naked arrogance of it almost made Olivia shocked. She leaned back slowly in her ergonomic chair, the leather sighing softly. She looked at him. Really looked at him. At the expensive suit, the clueless eyes, the self-satisfied smirk playing on his lips. He had no idea. No inkling of the legal landmine he just casually stepped on. No concept that the system running, by last count, 82% of Apex Innovation's entire operation, the system generating the very revenue that paid for his tailored suits, couldn't legally operate past midnight Sunday. He thinks he's cutting dead weight, she thought grimly. He just severed the company's spine. But she didn't say a word of that. Not yet. The timing wasn't right. Instead, a slow, deliberate smile spread across her face. Calm, polite, lethal. She stood smoothly, extending a hand that he pointedly ignored. "Understood, Mark. Thank you for the clarity." He nodded curtly, already turning away, dismissing her. "Right. HR downstairs." As he reached the doorway, he paused, throwing one last barb over his shoulder, a final twist of the knife. "Frankly, Olivia," he sneered, "I'm not about to waste another dime of company money on an incompetent employee who clearly peaked 5 years ago. Consider this addition by subtraction. Without her signature. Without the patent holder's explicit permission." Olivia's smile didn't flicker. Not even an inch. "Good luck, Mark," she replied, her voice still calm, almost gentle. "You might need it." He paused, a flicker of confusion crossing his face at her utter lack of distress. Then, shrugging it off as irrelevant, he was gone. He thought he was closing a chapter. He didn't realize he just handed Olivia the pen to write his corporate obituary. Olivia packed her desk slowly, methodically. A framed photo from a team-building retreat years ago. Genuine smiles, now bittersweet. A hardy little succulent she'd somehow kept alive against all odds. A blank USB stick. A decoy. As she walked the long path through the open-plan office, the familiar buzz felt different. Heads turned, then quickly snapped away. Some offered small, tight-lipped smiles of sympathy, eyes darting nervously towards the executive wing. Others simply stared resolutely at their screens, pretending not to notice. Fear, Olivia thought, is a contagion spread by silence. Sound of elevator ding. Footsteps in a parking garage. Car door opens and closes. By the time she reached her car, deep in the concrete belly of the corporate parking garage, her hands were trembling. Not with sadness, or even anger, though that was simmering beneath the surface. It was anticipation. A strange, exhilarating curiosity. How long? How long until the clueless emperor realized he wasn't just naked, he was locked out of his own palace? She knew the answer. Monday morning. 8:07 a.m., to be precise. Sometimes, revenge isn't a dish best served cold. Sometimes, it's served exactly on schedule, triggered by a clause no one else bothered to read. The weekend unfolded like a held breath. Quiet. Heavy. Pregnant with unspoken consequences. Olivia told no one. Not her sister, who'd constantly nag her about work-life balance. Not her best friend, Chloe, back at Apex, who would have immediately launched into Defcon 1 revenge planning, fueled by outrage and Chardonnay. Certainly not her ex-husband, the one who'd patronizingly called her too intense and married to her work before leaving for someone more pliable. This required focus, space, strategic silence. Friday night, she walked for hours through the damp Seattle streets, past glowing cafes and darkened bookstores, letting the cool night air clear her head. It wasn't the job she mourned. It was the insult. The sheer, blinding ignorance of it all. The audacity of a man like Mark Harrison, who couldn't differentiate a Java string from a shoestring, dismantling her life's work and calling it unnecessary. By Saturday morning, the initial shock had cooled into icy resolve. She retrieved the original, notarized employment contract from her fireproof safe. There it was, clear as day. Clause 17, Section B, Subsection 4. System Patent US 9347901B1, registered solely to Olivia Vance. And the kicker, the explicit clause detailing Apex Innovations' licensing agreement for the patented system. An agreement requiring her direct involvement for any renewal, updates, or scaling. An agreement set to expire at 11:59 p.m. Sunday night. Poetic, she thought. Almost makes you believe in corporate karma. There's a unique, almost giddy clarity in realizing you're not the victim. You're the detonator. By 3 p.m. Saturday, the email was drafted. Sent from her personal account, not the now deactivated Apex address. Destination, Apex Innovations Legal Department, copying their general counsel, the former CTO who knew exactly what the system entailed, and, for good measure, Mark Harrison himself. The subject line was deceptively simple. Notice of intellectual property usage expiration, immediate attention required. The body was crisp, factual, devoid of emotion. A formal notification that, per the existing licensing agreement, copy attached, the company's legal right to utilize the patented back-end architecture system, patent #US 9347901B1, would expire at midnight, Sunday. Continued use beyond that point, without a renegotiated license directly with the patent holder, would constitute willful infringement under US patent law, triggering immediate legal action and significant statutory damages. She signed it with deliberate precision. Olivia Vance. Inventor and patent holder. Apex Backend Architecture version 2.3. Sound of email send notification chirp. Olivia exhales slowly. Sound of running shoes hitting pavement. Rhythmic breathing. Then, she shut her laptop, laced up her running shoes, and pounded out 4 hard miles through the misty Seattle streets, letting the physical exertion burn away the lingering adrenaline. Let them find it. Let them scramble. Let the panic begin. Sunday afternoon, the ripples started. 2 missed calls from an unknown number, likely legal. A clipped voicemail arrived from HR. Olivia, Brenda from HR here, the voice stammered slightly. Just hoping to, clarify a small point regarding your separation agreement paperwork. Please give me a call back. Then one came from the General Counsel himself. Ms. Vance, Jonathan Mills, the formal voice stated. Please contact our office at your earliest possible convenience to discuss certain terms pertaining to your prior contractual agreement with Apex Innovations. And finally, late Sunday night, the one she'd been waiting for. An email from Mark Harrison. Subject: urgent. Contract misunderstanding? The message read, Olivia, Mark Harrison here. Look, I think there's been a significant miscommunication regarding this patent business. Clearly a misunderstanding. I'd like to speak with you directly, woman to man, person to person, to clear the air and resolve this amicably before business resumes Monday morning. Please call my cell ASAP. We need to sort this. Max. Panic. Raw, unvarnished, poorly disguised panic. Olivia read the email, then archived it without replying. Let him sweat. Let them all walk into Apex Innovations on Monday morning expecting business as usual, only to find the digital lights switched off. The scheduling system? Dark. The customer relationship management database? Inaccessible. API integrations? Failing. Automated reporting? Blank. Client access portals? Error 404. All because the license to operate the core system, her system, had evaporated at the stroke of midnight. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about respect. And if that respect had to be delivered via system-wide outage and frantic, desperate emails, so be it. Power isn't always wielding the corporate hammer. Sometimes, it's holding the only key to the kingdom and knowing precisely when to turn it. 8 a.m. Monday. Olivia sat on her couch, dressed in comfortable sweats, nursing a strong coffee, laptop open, phone fully charged beside her. Showtime. 8:07 a.m. Her personal inbox detonated. A flood of automated system alerts from Apex servers she still had passive monitoring access to. System error. Back-end authentication failed. Critical alert. CRM database unreachable. Urgent. Client portal access failure. Multiple instances. Then, frantic emails from former colleagues. Followed by a direct, panicked email from Mark Harrison. Subject: Emma, call me now, damn it. Systems down. Then, a text message pinged from Chloe, her friend in product management. Text message sound. The message read, OMG Olivia. Did you do this? Tell me you did this. Mark is full-on meltdown mode. Fire, whole system is dark. Clients are screaming. Board members are calling non-stop. It is glorious chaos. Face with tears of joy. Sound of Olivia smiling, a genuine, relieved smile. Not sabotage, Chloe, Olivia thought. Just consequences. The predictable result of arrogance meeting reality. 8:31 a.m. Her phone rang. Mark Harrison's number. This time, she answered, letting the chaos simmer just long enough. Olivia Vance speaking, she said calmly. Olivia. Thank God. Mark's voice cracked through the speaker, strained, trying desperately to sound calm but failing miserably. Look, we need to talk. Right now. This whole patent thing. Total surprise. Honestly, had no idea. Some kind of clerical error. Must be. Let's get you back in the office. We can smooth this whole thing over. Maybe talk about a consulting gig. Name your price. We need you back. Olivia's voice was gentle, but cut like ice. I'm happy to talk, Mark. But we won't be discussing my employment. That bridge, as you'll recall, was burned. By you. On Friday. We're discussing licensing terms now. between Apex Innovations and me, an external contractor and the sole patent holder. Sound of dead silence on the other end of the line. Mark's voice dropped, a hint of threat creeping in. Olivia, let's not make this personal. This is business. Olivia paused for a beat. Oh, I agree, Mark. It's not personal at all, she replied coolly. It's strictly contractual. Now, if you'll excuse me, I expect your legal team will be in touch shortly to discuss appropriate terms for resuming service. Goodbye. Sound of call disconnecting cleanly. A deep exhale from Olivia. The ticking clock returns, stronger now. And just like that, the negotiation began. On her terms. From her couch. While the empire Mark Harrison thought he ruled crumbled around him. Sometimes, the most powerful position isn't in the corner office. It's holding the kill switch. 9:12 a.m. Olivia Vance walked into the Apex Innovations headquarters. Not through the subdued employee entrance she'd used for 9 years, but through the gleaming, ostentatious main lobby. Her heels clicked with sharp authority on the polished marble, a sound both alien and deeply satisfying. This wasn't a return. It was a state visit. The receptionist, a young man usually unflappable, did a visible double-take. MMS Vance. Olivia, he stammered slightly. Olivia offered a cool smile. I have a 9:15 meeting with the legal department. They're expecting me. The receptionist nodded quickly, fumbling with the phone. Yes, of course. Right away. 7th floor. As he dialed, his hand trembled. Olivia felt the subtle shift in the lobby's atmosphere. Conversations pausing mid-sentence, heads turning, furtive glances exchanged among the employees pretending to work. News traveled fast in a crisis. Especially when the crisis had a name, and she had just walked through the front door. Sound of elevator ding. Doors slide shut. Olivia takes a slow, deep breath. Alone in the mirrored elevator car ascending to the executive floor, Olivia caught her reflection. Calm. Composed. War paint invisible but present. Beneath the surface, her heart hammered against her ribs, not with fear, but with adrenaline-fueled focus. She'd spent 48 hours preparing for this. Not just defending her patent, but quantifying its exact, undeniable value to the company that had tossed her aside like yesterday's news. Sound of elevator dings again. Doors open onto a hushed, carpeted corridor. Quiet footsteps approach a large wooden door. And just like that, the negotiation began. On her terms. From her couch. While the empire Mark Harrison thought he ruled crumbled around him. Sometimes, the most powerful position isn't in the corner office. It's holding the kill switch. 9:12 a.m. Olivia Vance walked into the Apex Innovations headquarters. Not through the subdued employee entrance she'd used for 9 years, but through the gleaming, ostentatious main lobby. Her heels clicked with sharp authority on the polished marble, a sound both alien and deeply satisfying. This wasn't a return. It was a state visit. The receptionist, a young man usually unflappable, did a visible double-take. MMS Vance. Olivia, he stammered slightly. Olivia offered a cool smile. I have a 9:15 meeting with the legal department. They're expecting me. The receptionist nodded quickly, fumbling with the phone. Yes, of course. Right away. 7th floor. As he dialed, his hand trembled. Olivia felt the subtle shift in the lobby's atmosphere. Conversations pausing mid-sentence, heads turning, furtive glances exchanged among the employees pretending to work. News traveled fast in a crisis. Especially when the crisis had a name, and she had just walked through the front door. Sound of elevator ding. Doors slide shut. Olivia takes a slow, deep breath. Alone in the mirrored elevator car ascending to the executive floor, Olivia caught her reflection. Calm. Composed. War paint invisible but present. Beneath the surface, her heart hammered against her ribs, not with fear, but with adrenaline-fueled focus. She'd spent 48 hours preparing for this. Not just defending her patent, but quantifying its exact, undeniable value to the company that had tossed her aside like yesterday's news. Sound of elevator dings again. Doors open onto a hushed, carpeted corridor. Quiet footsteps approach a large wooden door. And just like that, the negotiation began. On her terms. From her couch. While the empire Mark Harrison thought he ruled crumbled around him. Sometimes, the most powerful position isn't in the corner office. It's holding the kill switch. 9:12 a.m. Olivia Vance walked into the Apex Innovations headquarters. Not through the subdued employee entrance she'd used for 9 years, but through the gleaming, ostentatious main lobby. Her heels clicked with sharp authority on the polished marble, a sound both alien and deeply satisfying. This wasn't a return. It was a state visit. The receptionist, a young man usually unflappable, did a visible double-take. MMS Vance. Olivia, he stammered slightly. Olivia offered a cool smile. I have a 9:15 meeting with the legal department. They're expecting me. The receptionist nodded quickly, fumbling with the phone. Yes, of course. Right away. 7th floor. As he dialed, his hand trembled. Olivia felt the subtle shift in the lobby's atmosphere. Conversations pausing mid-sentence, heads turning, furtive glances exchanged among the employees pretending to work. News traveled fast in a crisis. Especially when the crisis had a name, and she had just walked through the front door. Sound of elevator ding. Doors slide shut. Olivia takes a slow, deep breath. Alone in the mirrored elevator car ascending to the executive floor, Olivia caught her reflection. Calm. Composed. War paint invisible but present. Beneath the surface, her heart hammered against her ribs, not with fear, but with adrenaline-fueled focus. She'd spent 48 hours preparing for this. Not just defending her patent, but quantifying its exact, undeniable value to the company that had tossed her aside like yesterday's news. Sound of elevator dings again. Doors open onto a hushed, carpeted corridor. Quiet footsteps approach a large wooden door. Olivia stood smoothly. Understandable. I'll wait, she said simply. But Jonathan, be advised. Every hour this system remains down erodes client trust. Every minute impacts your Q3 earnings projections. Every news cycle risks exposure of this operational vulnerability. I strongly advise you impress upon the board the extreme urgency of this matter. Tick-tock. Sound of Olivia turning and walking out, leaving stunned silence in her wake. Ticking clock motif returns, louder. In business, as in chess, the most dangerous opponent isn't the one shouting threats. It's the one who anticipated your moves 3 turns ago and has quietly positioned their pieces for checkmate. Water cooler gurgling softly. Footsteps, Mark Harrison's, approaching. 10:03 a.m. Olivia stood by the water cooler outside the conference room, calmly sipping from a bottle, phone dark in her hand. She saw him before he saw her. Mark Harrison, pacing the far end of the corridor like a caged tiger, phone pressed to his ear, face a mask of barely contained fury. When his eyes finally landed on her, standing there cool and collected, his expression went through a rapid series of microshifts. Shock, confusion, dawning horror, then forced, brittle politeness as he ended his call and approached her. Olivia, he began, his voice strained, attempting casualness. Didn't expect to see you here. In person. Thought we were handling this through channels. Olivia met his gaze, unwavering. No, Mark. You didn't expect a lot of things. That seems to be a recurring theme. Mark took a step closer, lowering his voice, trying intimidation. Look, I think this has all gone way too far. A simple misunderstanding blown out of proportion. We should have just had a chat, you and me, before involving lawyers and all this drama. Olivia raised an eyebrow, her voice dripping sarcasm. A chat? You mean before you summarily fired me for being redundant and peaked? Or after? I lose track. Mark flustered. That decision. Okay, perhaps it was based on incomplete information. A mistake. Easily rectified. Olivia stepped forward slightly, closing the distance, forcing him back a step. No, Mark. Let's call it what it was, she said, her voice low but carrying immense weight. That decision was based on arrogance. On ego. On your assumption that a woman who built the technological heart of this company was disposable. And now, you are dealing with the consequences. Now listen here. Mark opened his mouth to retort, sputtering. Olivia cut him off sharply. No, you listen. I'm not angry anymore, Mark. Anger is unproductive. I am simply done. Done being underestimated. Done being dismissed. I have documented everything. The patent filings. The licensing agreement clauses you violated. Your termination email citing non-existent cause. Every condescending remark. Every procedural bypass. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm here to negotiate the terms under which your company gets to use my intellectual property. So if you want to salvage this situation, and frankly, possibly salvage your rapidly imploding career, I suggest you get out of my way and let the adults in the legal department do their jobs. Sound of Mark Harrison's jaw clenching audibly. He seems lost for words. Olivia held his furious gaze for a beat longer, then turned crisply and walked back towards the conference room, pausing at the door. Oh, and Mark, she called over her shoulder, delivering a final, devastating blow. Good luck. You're really going to need it this time. Sound of conference room door clicking shut. Mark Harrison lets out a frustrated noise. There's a unique, almost exquisite satisfaction in watching someone realize the full magnitude of their blunder. The precise moment they understand they picked a fight with the wrong person and are now utterly, irrevocably outmatched. And there's absolutely nothing they can do about it. By noon, the legal conference room had reconvened. The atmosphere was thick with tension, sharp and brittle. The board hadn't joined physically, but their panic directives hung heavy in the air, palpable in the way the legal team now avoided direct eye contact. This wasn't a negotiation anymore. It was damage control on a sinking ship. Olivia remained impassive. Jonathan Mills looked exhausted, his tie loosened, posture defeated. Olivia, the board has reviewed your aggressive proposal, he began, sounding measured. Olivia corrected him coolly. Accurate. The term is accurate market value. Jonathan. Not aggressive. Jonathan Mills nodded wearily. Accurate. Fine. We are prepared to accept the financial terms. $1.2 million for 12 months. Quarterly payments, renewable. However, there's a caveat regarding the public acknowledgement clause. The board feels, strongly, that phrasing it as a technical collaboration or strategic partnership would be more appropriate than a direct patent credit. Smoother for public relations. Olivia leaned forward, her eyes flashing with sudden fire. The polite negotiator vanished, replaced by the fiercely protective inventor. No, she stated, her voice low and dangerous. Jonathan Mills' brows shot up. Excuse me. Olivia spoke with precise, unyielding words. Absolutely not. There will be no spin. No sanitized corporate euphemisms. The acknowledgement will state, clearly and unequivocally, core system architecture designed and patented by Olivia Vance. This company, your company, ran on my intellectual property, my labor, my innovation, for 6 years while reaping all the rewards and giving minimal credit. You fired me. You dismissed my contribution as unnecessary. Now you want to continue benefiting from my work while hiding my name? So Mark Harrison can save face? The answer is unequivocally no. My name goes on the patent. My name goes on the public acknowledgement. That is non-negotiable. Sound of stunned silence. The external advisor slowly closes his notepad. Jonathan Mills swallowed hard. I will have to convey that stipulation to the board as well. Olivia stood, gathering her single folder. "You do that, Jonathan," she instructed. "And while you're conveying stipulations, you might gently remind them about SEC regulations regarding timely disclosure of material events impacting operational functionality and potential liabilities arising from intellectual property conflicts. Unreported issues tend to make investors nervous. Auditors even more so. Just food for thought." Sound of Olivia's heels clicking decisively as she exits again. The door closes with quiet finality. That last comment landed like a precision-guided missile. Because the dirty secret of the corporate world is how quickly investor confidence can evaporate, how swiftly stock prices can tumble, how aggressively regulators can pounce when IP mismanagement or operational failure hits the news. Olivia didn't just know the technology, she knew the rulebook of the game they were playing, and she'd just shown them she wasn't afraid to use it. They thought they were playing checkers. She was playing multidimensional corporate chess. As Olivia walked towards the elevators, she saw Chloe leaning against the wall, a wide grin spreading across her face. Chloe whispered excitedly, "They're calling you the firewall upstairs. Apparently, you just shut down legal's attempt to spin the story." Olivia allowed herself a small, tired smile. "Better than being called unnecessary, I suppose." Chloe laughed, then lowered her voice conspiratorially. "Seriously though, Olivia, the whole floor is buzzing. Mark is in full panic mode. He's trying to sell the board some insane story about how you failed to disclose the license expiration date. Can you believe the audacity?" Olivia's voice was calm, resolute. "It's a predictable lie from a desperate man. Let him spin. Truth has a way of surfacing, especially when it's documented in triplicate." Chloe nodded vigorously. "Everyone saw the time-stamped email you sent Saturday. The one he ignored. Legal has copies. IT has logs. He's got nothing. The interns are whispering about Patentgate." Olivia didn't reply immediately. Reclaiming control was phase 1. Accountability was phase 2. And phase 2 was about to begin. Sound of gentle typing. Email send chime. That evening, Olivia drafted another email. Not to legal. Not to Mark. But directly to Robert Sterling, the chairman of the Apex Innovations Board. She still had his private contact information from a cross-functional committee they'd served on years ago. Subject, system licensing, public statement, and executive leadership conduct. The email was concise, factual, and devastatingly professional. It outlined the patent's scope, its critical operational necessity, the timeline of her unjustified termination followed immediately by the licensing conflict triggered by Mark's ignorance and inaction. It politely referenced Mark's demonstrably false narrative now being pushed internally. And it closed with a simple, penetrating question. If this represents Mr. Harrison's standard for handling critical internal resources and contractual obligations, what assurances does the board have regarding his management of external partnerships, vendor agreements, or regulatory compliance? Sound of a moment of silence, then an incoming email notification. The reply came faster than she expected, not from the chairman himself, but from a senior board liaison. The message read, "Ms. Vance, thank you for your clarity and professionalism under challenging circumstances. Please be assured the board takes this matter with the utmost seriousness. We are initiating a full internal review of the events and leadership decisions, utilizing all documentation provided. In the interim, the board fully supports the immediate finalization of the licensing arrangement under the terms you have stipulated, including the public acknowledgement. We anticipate completion within 48 hours. We sincerely regret that the company's leadership failed to recognize the full scope and value of your contribution sooner." Sound of Olivia leaning back, a slow, deep breath. It wasn't quite an apology, but it was a seismic shift. A signal that the narrative Mark Harrison was frantically trying to control had already escaped him. The power balance had irrevocably tilted. Sound of phone buzzes. Incoming text. Later that night, another text arrived from Chloe. Text message sound. It read, Holy cow. Board just called an emergency session for 8 a.m. tomorrow. Mark is losing his mind. His exec assistant looks terrified. He's been calling everyone, trying to shore up support, control the story. What did you do? Face screaming in fear. Sound of Olivia typing slowly on her phone. Olivia typed back slowly. Text message sound. Let him try. I have the truth. And a paper trail longer than his inflated resume. Winking face. Tomorrow wouldn't just be about finalizing a license. It would be a reckoning. The most dangerous opponent isn't the loudest one in the room. It's the one who spent years quietly collecting the receipts while everyone else was busy talking. Sound of transition. Formal, tense boardroom ambience. Muted coughs. Shuffling papers. Wednesday, 8 a.m. sharp. The Apex Innovations Board of Directors convened. By 9:23 a.m., Olivia received an unexpected summons. Not from Mark. Not from legal. From Robert Sterling, the board chair himself. The email was curt, the tone unmistakable. Subject: invitation to board close session. The message stated, Ms. Vance, please join the board for closed session meeting at 11 a.m. today in the main boardroom. Your insight on recent events will be valuable to our ongoing discussion. Valuable. Olivia thought wryly. There's that word again. Less than 2 weeks ago, I was incompetent and redundant. Now, valuable. The whiplash is almost comical. At 10:55 a.m., Olivia walked into the Lion's Den, the top-floor executive boardroom, a space steeped in power and mahogany, a room she'd only presented in once, years ago, as a junior architect standing nervously by the projector. Today was different. Mark Harrison was already seated at the long table, looking strangely diminished despite his power suit. His arms were crossed defensively, phone placed face down like forbidden contraband. His usual confident smirk was replaced by a tight, forced smile that didn't reach his anxious eyes. The other board members, a mix of seasoned executives and stern-faced investors, watched her entrance in silence. Olivia walked directly to the empty chair indicated by the chairman, placed exactly opposite Mark, and sat without waiting to be asked. No hesitation. The board chair, Robert Sterling, cleared his throat. Thank you for joining us, Olivia. We've reviewed the proposed licensing terms, which are acceptable, and the associated documentation regarding recent events. Before the board concludes its deliberation, we wanted to offer you an opportunity to share your perspective directly. Briefly, if you would. Olivia nodded calmly. Of course, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. She stood, holding a single sheet of notes, but didn't glance down. Instead, she made eye contact with each person around the table, her voice clear and steady. Effective leadership isn't about wielding authority. It's about fostering clarity. It's about understanding the intricate systems, both technical and human, that actually drive a company's success. When a new executive, particularly one lacking domain expertise, enters a complex environment like Apex, they face a critical choice: listen and learn, or impose and bulldoze. Mr. Harrison chose the latter. Sound of Mark shifting uncomfortably, glaring daggers at Olivia. Olivia continued, he labeled me incompetent, the architect of the very system generating the majority of this company's revenue. He terminated my employment without due process, without reviewing critical contractual obligations tied directly to my role and intellectual property. He ignored explicit warnings and legal notices until the system failed, until the servers went dark, until clients started demanding answers and your stock price likely took a hit. That isn't decisive leadership. It's reckless endangerment of the company's assets and reputation. She let the words hang in the heavy silence. Everything I designed, every line of code, every architectural decision, was made to strengthen and protect Apex Innovations. But no system, no firewall, can protect a company from the consequences of its own leadership's arrogance and willful ignorance. If your CEO doesn't understand the fundamental technology powering your business, or worse, dismisses the value of the people who do understand it, You're not just legally exposed. You are fundamentally vulnerable. Sound of a pen dropping onto the table with a loud clack. One board member leaned forward, his voice sharp. Ms. Vance, hypothetically, if you were in Mr. Harrison's position, what would you have done differently? Olivia offered a faint, almost imperceptible smile. With all due respect, I wouldn't be in his position. Because I understand the technology and I respect the expertise of the people who build it. But hypothetically, I would have listened. I would have asked questions. I would have reviewed the existing contracts and personnel files before making drastic changes. I would build a leadership culture based on collaboration and competence, not bluster and control. And I certainly wouldn't wait for catastrophic system failure and a multi-million-dollar lawsuit to start valuing the people who actually keep this company operational. Sound of another heavy silence. Robert Sterling spoke, his voice neutral. Thank you, Olivia. Your perspective is noted. You may wait outside while the board concludes its deliberations. Olivia nodded crisply to the chair, then to the board. Thank you for your time. Sound of Olivia exiting. The boardroom door closes firmly. Muffled, but clearly angry, shouting begins from inside, Mark Harrison's voice. Standing in the quiet corridor, Olivia could hear the muffled sounds of Mark Harrison unraveling. Raised voices. Accusations. Deflections. Blaming legal. Blaming the CTO. Blaming HR. Blaming the phases of the moon. It was the desperate, final thrashing of a man whose power was evaporating before his eyes. But the blame wouldn't stick this time. The paper trail was too clear, the consequences too severe. The difference between wielding power and possessing influence, Olivia mused, is that influence continues to shape outcomes even after you've left the room. Sound of boardroom door opening. Robert Sterling steps out, looking grim but resolute. Robert Sterling approached her. Olivia, we've concluded. Please come back inside. We need to speak with you privately. Olivia followed him back into the now silent boardroom. Mark Harrison's chair was empty. His belongings were gone. The chairman sat, folded his hands, and looked directly at Olivia. Effective immediately, he stated. Mark Harrison has been placed on administrative leave, pending the outcome of a formal, independent review of his conduct and management practices. The board will be issuing a revised internal statement clarifying the situation regarding the system outage and explicitly, publicly recognizing your pivotal contribution to Apex Innovation's technology infrastructure and its recent recovery. He slid a printed draft across the polished table. Olivia picked it up, her eyes scanning the first lines. She read aloud softly. Apex Innovations formally acknowledges Olivia Vance's indispensable leadership, innovation, and intellectual property ownership as vital to the company's past, present, and future success. A wave of unexpected emotion washed over her. Not triumph. Exactly. More like vindication. A profound sense of relief. Not just for herself, but for every woman in tech, every quiet expert ever overlooked or dismissed by loud incompetence. The licensing agreement is approved under all your terms, the chairman continued. The question now, Olivia, is how you would like to proceed from here. Olivia took a deep breath, centering herself. The licensing agreement stands. Beyond that, I'm prepared to offer short-term consulting services, strictly defined scope, focused on stabilizing the system, knowledge transfer, and assisting you in identifying and onboarding a permanent, qualified replacement. No full-time return. My independence is non-negotiable now. But I also want to help you implement structural safeguards, proper IP review protocols, clear reporting lines, whistleblower protections tied to board oversight. So a disaster like this, driven by one person's ego, can never happen again. To anyone. Robert Sterling nodded slowly, a look of respect in his eyes. Consider it done, Olivia. Your terms are accepted. Olivia stood, offering a professional nod. As she turned to leave, the chairman spoke again, his voice softer now. Olivia, You did more than just protect your patent or the system. In a very real way, you may have saved this company from itself. Olivia paused at the door, looking back. I know, she replied quietly. Sound of elevator ding. Gentle, hopeful _begins. Walking out of that boardroom, out of the building, and into the crisp Seattle air, Olivia felt a weight she hadn't fully realized she was carrying begin to lift. Not instantly, but piece by piece, like shedding unnecessary armor. Chloe was waiting by the entrance, practically vibrating with anticipation. Chloe whispered intensely, "He's gone? Really gone?" Olivia allowed a genuine smile. On leave. For now. Likely permanent. And you? Chloe asked. Olivia looked back up at the glass tower, at the floors where she'd poured years of her life, her expertise, her passion. Me, she said, her voice clear and confident. I'm just getting started. True victory isn't just about winning your own battle. It's about changing the landscape so others don't have to fight the same war. The official internal announcement landed in employee inboxes at 2:03 p.m. that Friday. It stated, effective immediately, Maxwell Granger has been placed on administrative leave, pending a full investigation. Apex Systems formally acknowledges Olivia Vance as the architect of our core infrastructure. Her patent and licensing terms are now part of our official operating agreement. We are grateful for her continued partnership. Simple words, but the impact inside Apex was seismic. The fear-induced silence that had permeated the office for weeks began to thaw, replaced by cautious smiles, relieved nods, and murmured congratulations from colleagues who had previously avoided her gaze. It wasn't about rubbing salt in wounds. It was about the quiet, powerful restoration of truth. Over the next few weeks, Olivia worked with Apex under her consulting agreement, setting her own hours, defining her own deliverables. She helped stabilize the system, documented everything for a smooth handover, and, true to her word, collaborated with a chastened legal and HR team to draft new protocols for IP management and leadership accountability. She established clear boundaries, mentored junior engineers on asserting their value, and politely declined all offers for a permanent return. The company had changed, yes, but more importantly, she had changed. One afternoon, leaving the building, she saw a group of summer interns laughing near the entrance. One of them, a young woman named Sophia with bright, curious eyes, recognized her and approached hesitantly. "Excuse me?" Sophia asked nervously, "Are you Olivia Vance?" Olivia smiled warmly. "I am." Sophia's face lit up. "Oh wow. I wanted to say thank you. What you did, it's like legendary around here now. We talk about the Vance Gambit on the intern Slack channel all the time. You made it feel possible for people to actually stand up for their work, you know." Olivia's voice was gentle but firm. "Then keep standing up. Don't wait for permission to claim your value." Sophia nodded eagerly. "I will. Thank you." Watching the intern hurry off to rejoin her friends, Olivia felt a warmth spread through her. Not just pride, but a sense of legacy. A ripple effect. One afternoon, leaving the building, she saw a group of summer interns laughing near the entrance. One of them, a young woman named Sophia with bright, curious eyes, recognized her and approached hesitantly. "Excuse me?" Sophia asked nervously, "Are you Olivia Vance?" Olivia smiled warmly. "I am." Sophia's face lit up. "Oh wow. I wanted to say thank you. What you did, it's like legendary around here now. We talk about the Vance Gambit on the intern Slack channel all the time. You made it feel possible for people to actually stand up for their work, you know." Olivia's voice was gentle but firm. "Then keep standing up. Don't wait for permission to claim your value." Sophia nodded eagerly. "I will. Thank you." Watching the intern hurry off to rejoin her friends, Olivia felt a warmth spread through her. Not just pride, but a sense of legacy. A ripple effect. In the following months, the epilogue unfolded predictably. Mark Harrison's administrative leave quietly became a permanent departure, attributed to irreconcilable leadership differences. Whispers surfaced about other questionable terminations, other ethical lapses now seeing the light of day under the new scrutiny. Apex began a slow, genuine cultural shift towards transparency and valuing internal expertise. Credit attribution became standard practice in engineering. Exit interviews became meaningful feedback sessions. Occasionally, an executive speaking at a conference would try to spin the narrative. Olivia was always a key part of our team. We always valued her contributions. Olivia never bothered to correct them publicly. The people who mattered, her colleagues, the board, the clients who now saw her name credited on the system architecture, knew the truth. The code knew the truth. Months later, a handwritten note arrived from Robert Sterling, the board chair. It read, "Olivia, you fundamentally changed how this board perceives leadership. Not through aggression, but through quiet competence and unwavering principle. Thank you for demonstrating what real authority looks like. Robert." Olivia filed it away, a powerful reminder of where she'd been, and the future she was now building. Today, Olivia Vance runs her own successful strategic consulting firm. She chooses her clients carefully, partnering with companies committed to building sustainable systems and fostering genuinely empowered teams, not just chasing quarterly results with flashy, hollow leadership. She sets her own boundaries. She negotiates her own terms. And she reads every single line of every contract. Because ultimately, this wasn't a story about revenge, though justice was served. It was a story about worth. About visibility. About the enduring power of quiet competence refusing to be erased. So, to anyone listening who has ever felt underestimated, undervalued, pushed aside, or labeled difficult simply for knowing your value and speaking your truth, remember Olivia's story. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to fight dirty to win. You just need to know your worth, document everything, and never, ever hand your power over to those who refuse to see it. Because when they try to silence you, when they try to fire you into oblivion, sometimes, all they really manage to do is light the fuse.